Now, before you hit me with the big eye roll, if we're going to talk about gratitude here, yes, that is the number one thing every personal development spiritual guru will talk about. You've probably heard it a million times. I'm going to try and give you some different takes on gratitude here. Because if we're talking about performance psychology and performing at your best, it absolutely is a relevant part of being able to keep your stress and cortisol levels down and also shift your perspective to make you a better teammate, better person, better person to be around. It does make a difference, but I'm going to give it to you in a way that isn't just like, skip, next video. So let's dive in to gratitude as a concept and how it can make you perform better. So there's really two times that you need to be able to implement and force gratitude onto yourself. Number one is to prime your day, and number two is to deal with things that go awry. Now, we're already talking about AGR in this video series, but gratitude on its own, there are some specific practices that I want to impart into you with a why, what, how structure we always use, why it's important, what we actually do it for, and how to do it correctly. So the first thing you need to understand is starting your day. So when you start your day, your brain is generally in what's called a theta state. So when you're awake, it's normally in what's called alpha and beta. That's when you're sort of paying attention to things and noticing or in the zone. A delta state is when you're asleep, and it's very long, drawn out, slower paced brainwaves. But about an hour after waking up, maybe 90 minutes after waking up, you're generally in what's called a theta state, which is halfway between sleeping and awake. You're very, very impressionable. You can also be quite creative. It's a good time to do creative things as soon as you're up in the morning, but it's also when you're very impressionable. So I use this a lot, but there was an experiment that they did in a university where they brought these surveyed people into an elevator. They went up the elevator, they then sat in a room, they read a 3-paragraph description of this story or character, and then they had to describe the character, what they thought the character was like. The difference in the survey, they all got the exact same 3 paragraphs, exact same words, but the surveyor gave half of those people a hot drink to hold, like a coffee. They gave the other half a cold drink to hold, like a soft drink, like a Coca-Cola. Most of the people, like 70 to 80% of the people who got the hot drink, described the character as warm and friendly and kind. And almost the exact opposite, 60 to 70% of the people who got a cold drink described that character as cold, distant, and aloof. That's how easily primed our brains can be. And the most vulnerable we can be to priming is in the morning. Like if you've ever gone out to try and work for a day or perform well at your discipline and had a fight with your partner that morning, how'd that go for you? It's not the best. So it's really, really important to be able to protect your morning and program your morning. So the two things I use there are an idea of a gratitude exercise and a little thing I call 8 till 8. So a gratitude exercise is very simple. All you have to do, as early as you can, write down 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for. That's simple. It's really, really easy. If you're religious, you can do this in prayer form as well, but writing it out is also really helpful. It keeps you accountable as well. So having like a gratitude journal or something like that. But one thing that a lot of people get wrong with talking about or thinking about their gratitudes is they do very surface level. Oh, I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for my partner. You want to delve a little bit deeper. Why are you grateful for them? Spend an extra, 3 to 5 seconds after you write it or think it, thinking about why you're grateful for it, or at least just sitting in that feeling of feeling gratitude. That's how you will maximize the amount of happiness that you'll get from that experience. So that gratitude exercise alone, if you do that every day for 2 weeks and don't miss, you will be amazed at how much better your life goes, even amidst turmoil and bad circumstances. So that's one tip that's really important. Why that primes you is that it sets your brain to understanding there's good in the world. You're focused on the good, and it will keep that focus throughout the day. The other thing that I like to use though is, again, protecting that theta window is something I call 8 till 8, which is I generally try not to touch my phone or at least look at my messages or on social media or anything like that until about 8 a.m. And I try not to look at my phone after 8 p.m. So between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., I'm generally off my phone, or at the very least, the only thing I'm using it for is like YouTube or whatever. Now, the reason that we do that is any light that your brain will take in, it thinks it's daytime. And people talk about blue light, red light, orange light, whatever. It doesn't matter. If there's light close to your face, your brain thinks it's the sun, it thinks it's daytime, it'll keep you awake. And so if you struggle with getting to sleep on time, try not looking at your phone after like 8 or at the very least 8:30. You'll be amazed how much easier it is to get to bed. So you get better quality sleep. And then in the morning, I try not to look at my phone, or at least the bad things, the things that where I can get hit with a news article or some sort of, political propaganda, or my favorite celebrities just died or something stupid like that. That will ruin your day in those theta states. So I try not to touch my phone up until about 8 a.m. And that hack is really, really useful for protecting your theta window, getting better quality sleep, and setting up time that you're more productive. Because once you get in that doom loop of scrolling, good luck to you. There's 45 minutes that you've just lost without even realizing. So it's better for productive mornings as well. So that's the secret to hacking gratitude at the start of the day. But there's also another time that gratitude can come in handy, and it's after an interruption. So one of the things that people don't realize is that cortisol, otherwise known as stress, it's the chemical that causes stress, will come from disruption in your routine. Any kind of unpredictability where your brain doesn't know what's happening, or the way something is supposed to go was thrown off course, that will cause cortisol, and that will make you stress while you're working without realizing it. It makes you more prone to not performing at your best, and it makes it harder to get into peak performance windows where you're in the zone. So why that is that cortisol, it pulls the electricity and the blood flow out of the front of your brain where you're your most intelligent, and it pulls it into the back of your brain where your senses are. That's why if you're really stressed out and you hear someone chewing, you're like, can you stop? Like, it's because that cortisol makes you more aware of threats and it keeps you on edge. That is not good for performing at your best. And so how do we limit that cortisol when we have speed bumps or interruptions or things that can cause issues? Write down gratitude. Same thing. So when you experience gratitude, it releases a chemical called DHEA, and obviously a little bit other happy chemicals, your oxytocin and your serotonin and your dopamine. But it's the building block foundation for a lot of hormones that will lower your cortisol. And so understanding that cortisol can be lowered by experiencing gratitude, then if you see an interruption, let's say you're late for work, I always, if anybody is ever late to one of my businesses, and especially the sales team, when they get in late and they're always, oh, sorry, I'm late. And you can see the stress on them. I say, okay, sit down, write down 30 things you're grateful for. Why 30? I don't know. It's just the number that works. 20 is not enough, 40 is too much. You guys, you play around with your own numbers, but I find that like 30, because it's a stretch to write 30. You've got to really think about things. And it only takes you about 5 or 10 minutes, but that will lower the amount of cortisol and stop you from stressing. So if you are ever feeling stressed, especially after an interruption, something's gone wrong, there's been an issue with your supply chain, there's, you get to your turf to sell for the day and there's someone else there or whatever it might be, 30 gratitudes, you'd be amazed at how easy it is. So yes, we all know gratitude's important, but we really wanted to delve into exactly how to use that to your advantage to perform at your peak. This is what performance psychology is all about. So best of luck, enjoy, and I hope you're grateful for the lesson.